Good afternoon, everyone. We'll just get going. Let people sort of filter in, and then get started in a couple of minutes. Okay, I think we'll maybe just get started and allow people to filter in as and when. My name is Magnus. I am a senior project manager at Offshore Renewable Energy Catapult. I am responsible for leading the FLOWB program, and I'm excited to be speaking today along with Roger Townsend from Innovate UK and Anthony Vaselli from University of Maine. Purpose of the webinar is to provide as much context for the funding call that's currently open and provide you with some updates as well. Please note that the session is being recorded and it will be available on our YouTube channel along with a link to download the slides at the end. So to provide you with an overview of what the session, we'll do a quick bit of general housekeeping and an introduction to the webinar. I'll then give you an overview of ORE Catapult and the FLOWB program itself. And Roger will speak on behalf of Innovate UK and Anthony on behalf of University of Maine. And then from around about 3:30, I'll provide sort of a detailed breakdown of the application and the assessment process as well. So just in terms of general housekeeping, no one can hear you as an audience member. Only the presenters can speak and unmute. We will have some slides. Anthony will share slides from as well. So please bear with us whilst we sort of do a handover of slides and control functions. There will be an FAQ at the end of the webinar. If you would like to direct sort of Q&A chat, if you'd like to direct any question and answers, please use the chat function on Zoom. Yeah, as I say, there is the FAQ, but if at the end of that we haven't answered all of your questions, we'll try our best to sort of head them off. If we don't get through all of them today, then we'll review and try and provide answers by email. Yeah, and then finally, as I mentioned, the session is recorded and will be added to our YouTube channel as well. So very quickly, if I could just provide an introduction to ORE Catapult and the FLOWB program. So the Offshore Renewable Energy Catapult is one of the catapults making up the Catapult network. I won't talk too much about the Catapult network as we're joined by Roger from Innovate UK, who can talk much better about them and what they do. But essentially, the ORE Catapult, we've got around over 300 engineers and research and sector experts specific to the offshore renewable energy industry. We're based throughout the UK. We have sort of some main test assets and facilities in Aberdeen, Blyth and Pembroke as well. So we have the Floating Offshore Wind Innovation Centre, which recently opened this year. We have the National Renewable Energy Centre, where our main testing facilities are. Where we recently announced a big capital expenditure program to reinvest in them. And then we also have our Marine Energy Centre of Excellence in Pembroke in the southwest of Wales as well. We're sort of stationed throughout the UK, Aberdeen, Glasgow, Blyth, Humber, Lowestoft, and Hale as well. We collaborate with industry, partners, government, a whole host of different sort of bodies in order to develop offshore renewables within the UK through research, innovation, testing and validation, and also supply chain growth as well. So just to provide you a little bit more background as to some of the different sections. So we look at sort of in terms of technology development, we look at next generation turbines and balance of plant, design validation and component testing. We also work with development, so project developers and operators of wind farms. So through sort of better intervention techniques, we do a lot of work in operations and maintenance and conditional health monitoring. We sort of utilize our network of SMEs who are developing the solutions to some of the challenges that developers and operators face. And we'll use our testing assets to support those SMEs as well. We do have our own sort of research programs, research strategy and innovation programs. So, and those tend to be in the sort of evaluation and support for emerging technologies. Floating wind is absolutely one of those and absolutely key for today's presentation. But we also do operate within the wave and tidal sector as well. As I say, we are the offshore renewable energy catapult, not the offshore wind catapult. We do quite a lot in energy networks and storage, particularly hydrogen, and we act as a gateway to UK academia, working with universities to support them in spinning out new companies, products, and that sort of thing as well. So just to turn your attention to the FLOWB program. ORE Catapult has been awarded funding from Innovate UK to work with an organisation called ARPA-E, which is the Advanced Research Project Agency for Energy. ARPA-E are based in the United States, and they also fund innovative technologies. And I'm pleased to say that we're joined on this programme by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory and the University of Maine as well. So Innovate UK, as I say, have provided us with the funding, and we'll be working directly with NREL and UMaine. NREL are developing the US Float 10, which was formerly known as the Spider Float, and this is the diagram on the left-hand side. As you can see, it's a very novel and unique floating platform. And then the University of Maine are developing the Voltron US Plus as well. I won't talk too much on that one, as Anthony's here, and we'll cover off an overview of that technology. So within the programme and the funding that we've received, we have sort of three main objectives. The first one being capturing the impact and opportunity for UK innovators. So we're aiming to identify the strengths of UK floating offshore wind supply chain. We also are reviewing and working with NREL and the University of Maine to look at how our own pieces of research as well, and we want to also look at the US sort of market as a whole and understand where can UK companies fit in an ever-growing and expanding US market as well. Within this sort of objective, we are sort of trying to capture what is needed for innovation within the UK, and that has informed, I suppose, the grant funding scope, but also the eligibility criteria as well. We aim to publish the impact of the programme later on towards the end, and provide some sort of reporting around that opportunity and where we think UK exports are headed within the US. So the second objective is to facilitate the collaboration through CR&D grant funding. So ORE Catapult will manage this grant funding programme. It's up to £1.5 million worth of funding, and Catapult is absolutely at the centre of that. So we'll be supporting between 3 to 5 projects with up to funding of £500,000, no less than £300,000, and the project should last up for 18 months as well. And then finally, as I mentioned, we are working ourselves with NREL and the University of Maine, and these are sorts of research and our supporting development activities include sort of technical review, reviewing sort of performance degradation, manufacturing and assembly of concrete floating foundations, and I suppose just getting to work with two great organisations who are at the forefront of innovating floating wind platform development. So I will pause there and pass control over to Roger Townsend from Innovate UK.
Magnus, thank you, and hello everybody. Firstly, Magnus, I want to thank you for putting this webinar together, but also more broadly putting together the programme with our colleagues in NREL and UMaine, and also ARPA-E. Yes, I was a bit worried I couldn't advance the slides. So hello everybody, I'm Roger Townsend. I'm an innovation lead at Innovate UK. My role, day-to-day role, is to understand innovation gaps in my area of responsibility, which is largely the same as Magnus's in the ORE catapult, so renewables, renewable energy. And I'll explain a little bit more later about my role. My first part, though, I'd like to introduce you to Innovate UK for those that don't know us. So we're the UK's innovation agency. We're part of UK Research and Innovation. That's an entity that is responsible, majority responsible for aiming to spend 2.4% of GDP on R&D, research and innovation. We're on track to spend that, government's on track to spend that around towards the end of this decade. UKRI comprises of 9 organisations. 8 of those look at supporting research and innovation activity, which is academic-led. Innovate UK supports business-led innovation, and that's really, really important to remember. And we're here to support productivity and economic growth. On the next slide, you will see that some key metrics, how we measure ourselves. Lots of projects, bottom left, top right. So for every £1 we invest in R&D and innovation projects, we aim to create a leverage of at least £7. I think that metric now is towards 8. You'll have a copy of these slides, so I'm not going to go through each of those, but essentially business-led innovation to create impact. We have recently, in 2021, created this document on the left, Building the Future Economy. That essentially is our plan for action. So the UK government published an innovation strategy also in 2021. And with these 5 strategic themes based on these strong foundations that you see along the bottom on the right. I just wanted to highlight the strategic themes: future economy, growth at scale, global opportunities and innovation ecosystem, and indeed government levers. But in particular, those 4 strategic themes, you will see and you'll understand, working in floating offshore wind, that floating offshore wind plays directly into those 4 or 5 areas. It is part of our future way of generating clean energy. It provides a huge opportunity for businesses that we support to grow and scale. And in particular with this opportunity, this will help you build deep relationships with NREL and UMaine and with the catapult as well to take benefit of these global opportunities. And this is all part of our kind of ambition really to connect people within a broader and deeper innovation ecosystem to help that economic growth I mentioned on the previous slide. So this programme is highly aligned. So as Magnus mentioned, we're providing grant for the catapult. And you'll have seen from Magnus's initial slides that the catapult have some great capability, knowledge, skills and resource to deliver. I just wanted to highlight that we don't just provide grant funding, either in our direct competitions or competitions through partners like the catapult. We offer also procurement contracts for R&D. That's particularly focused on public sector needs, innovation loans, investor partnerships, and also something we just launched called Investor Connect, which is about recognising that it's not just about R&D projects and grant funding. It's about taking those innovation, particularly those SMEs, through their growth phase. And you've probably heard a lot about the Valley of Death. Some of you may be struggling to get through that. We're really keen to create large, innovative businesses, and so providing access to capital and access to partners that can help with equity funding as well as grant funding is a really important thing. Investor partnerships is actually a hybrid model of grant funding plus equity, with a range of investor partners that we have, more than 100 now. The next bullet along, knowledge transfer partnerships and analysis for innovators. So as a business, you might have a particularly thorny academic challenge, and there are different ways of accessing the academic community at the universities in the main to solve a thorny technical issue, and that again we provide support for that access. And then in particular the support to help businesses grow and scale. And we have two separate business units. Innovate UK Business Connect helps innovators find partners and opportunities. And Innovate UK Business Growth is about that growth and scale support. So that could range from helping you identify and capture your IP. It could be business model canvassing. It could be consultancy type services that with a business growth specialist help you really capitalise on UK or export markets as well. And as part of that, as part of this kind of building the innovation ecosystem, we've got that wider support firstly around place and levelling up, because innovation happens in places, and quite often offshore renewable energy happens in very specific locations in the UK. So what we're trying to do there is create networks, trying to create regional action plans that allow us to allow the companies, in particular SMEs in those areas, to take the benefit. And that plays very well into some of the catapult programs as well, such as the Launch Academy, which is an accelerated type of program. And Launchpads is about providing funding for local partners to really create those SME ecosystem networks. And finally, in order to take the benefit of this wider net zero ambition, we recognise that skills, in particular STEM skills, science, technology, engineering and math skills, are really important. So we have workforce foresighting to help us identify the skills for those future economies, and then a systematic approach to plan for the build-up of those skills, including something called Talented Skills Connect, which is an online tool of resources and abilities to network with other entities to help you grow. Magnus did a really good job at introducing the ORA catapults. That's part of the wider catapult network. So these were set up early in the previous decade. Technology and innovation centres. You can see at the bottom right at the foot of the map, there are 9 catapult centres, of which ORA catapult is one. And they're aiming really to cover, as technology and innovation centres, those kind of key future technologies that we believe can be vital for the UK's growth. So they're funded through core grant from the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology, industry, and also ad hoc programmes as well, such as this one through DESNZ and through Innovate UK. We provide an oversight with the aim of bridging that gap between businesses, academia and the R&D community, as well as government. So tackling those big system challenges that nobody else can do, and in particular leveraging those test and demonstration facilities that Agnes mentioned earlier. And of course, based on the plan for the innovation plan for action that I mentioned, and those key strategic themes, you can understand now why Innovate UK was really keen to support this programme, help you build those relationships with NREL and UMaine, and also acting as hopefully a bit of a springboard or foothold in the US market longer term as well. So I think that's pretty much up to me, pretty much me done. I just wanted to focus on last slide. You'll have hyperlinks in the documents that we share. So, what other programs might we have available for you? And it is true that there's a lot of different places to go to for innovation support. I'll let you read through those links at your leisure. I'd like to focus on the second main bullet point, Investor Connect. So this is a relatively new link to a service that allows you to create a profile and to network with investors to help you on that growth and scale journey. The UKRI funding finder allows you not only to find Innovate UK competitions, but also competitions from the other research councils within UKRI, such as EPSRC, the Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Institute. So if you have, for example, a slightly lower TRL academic-led project, then EPSRC would be the place to go and to understand how they could support you. And finally, the Innovation Hub. So what we're trying to do here is bring into one place a single portal, if you will, with all of those logos there for partners where if you want to raise some finance from, for example, the British Business Bank, so slightly larger scale, maybe debt, or other partners that can help you on your innovation journey. This is effectively something that you can use to find the type of support. And essentially there's a search bar and you can go through and look and seek and find whatever you wish. So that's all from me. I'll hand back to Magnus. Thanks again, Magnus.
Thanks, Roger. That's very, very useful to hear, and some great programs there that folks should check out. So I will stop sharing there and welcome Anthony Vaselli from University of Maine to present. Just sharing.
Yes, thank you, Magnus and Roger, for the nice introduction. My name is Anthony Vaselli. I'm the chief engineer at the University of Maine's Offshore Wind Engineering Group. So let me know when you're able to see the screen, Magnus.
Yeah, we can see that now.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank you to the ORI Catapult and Innovate UK groups that have we've been collaborating with for close to a year now to get to this kickoff meeting and this announcement. I represent the University of Maine's as well as the Deep Sea Wind Company, which is the commercial delivery method, if you will, to bring the concrete floating foundation technologies developed at the University of Maine to the marketplace. I have about 20 years of experience in offshore marine structures. About 16 of those have all been focused on floating wind and both design, technology, and commercialization and some of our offshore tests. I'm a structural engineer, offshore engineer by training. We have two technologies that have been developed and over 70 patents awarded globally at this stage. The first on the right is a concrete semi-submersible, which is quite widely known and was demonstrated here in the US in 2013. And then a newer technology developed under the Advanced Research Project Agency, which is the subject of this collaboration opportunity, is called Volturnus Plus, which is a about 20 to 30% lighter hull and much easier to build concrete foundation, much simpler geometry. So my goal today is to tell you about who we are and the technologies at a high level, and also show you some of the opportunities potentially that we collaborate in the US. About 10 minutes or so of content here. So I work within a about a 415 person facility. It's called the Advanced Structures and Composite Center. It's located on the University of Maine campus. We're about 3 hours north of Boston. It was founded in 1996 by the National Science Foundation, which is the largest research and science foundation within the United States federal government. We operate in many ways like a teaching R&D facility, and we do have students which do internships in our lab. Over 2,600 students have come through in 35 different majors, but there's majority of the group is all full-time engineers and staff to take new technologies to market. We've formed over 10 spin-off companies, over 1,000 publications, 120 patents. And we have some unique facilities, including a large offshore wind lab, has the second largest wind blade test stand in the United States. You can see a large blade coming in through our doors. And we also have a dedicated wind wave basin, which allows us to do scale hydrodynamic and aerodynamic tests on new wind systems. This was built in 2015 specifically to drive innovation in the floating wind space. To take these technologies to market, the Deep Sea Wind Company was formed going back as far as 2006. It's a private company which supports developers in the design and licensing of these Volturnus concrete floating foundations. Over 50 engineers focused on wind design and innovation, strong networks with hull fabrication and transportation installation contractors, and has an exclusive license to the Humane patent portfolio, and acts as a hull design lead for commercial projects. And I just want to call attention, there's a number of dots in the UK, and we are very active in this area, and potentially some of you have interacted with us in some of these various projects, either at the pre-feed or feed levels. So we see this opportunity to expand our relationship here in this neighborhood, as well as potentially to bring folks and make them aware of some of the opportunities happening on the East Coast US, where we're located, or on the West Coast, where we're also active. This is our floating wind design team. It's a mixture of structural, naval architecture, and marine engineers, as well as testing capabilities, both within the laboratories and offshore tests. And then we also have, of course, the business and legal and financial support staff. These are the two technologies that we're promoting in the marketplace. The one of most interest for this call is the Volturnus Plus. We call it a damped cruciform barge. We call it the plus because of the shape of the hull. Looking down on the hull, it looks like a plus sign. And the system is a barge, but we've developed a damping technology which allows the barge to survive the wave motion and wave induced loading. And we then said, well, could we use a simpler hull geometry than our semi-submersible to drive costs down, drive the size of the costs, size of the floater to even more optimized level. And after about 6 years worth of R&D and numerous tests and engineering studies and third-party reviews, we have a solution which is shown here, which we believe is going to be very competitive in the marketplace. It's at a technology readiness level of 4, and we're planning on an offshore demo here this year, actually, to take it to TRL level 7. The semi was already demonstrated 10 years ago and is also commercial ready and is being proposed on several projects. So just a little background on the semi, because it is in many ways a base for our technology for the Plus. But this is the unit that was deployed in 2013. It was the first grid-connected offshore wind turbine in the United States. It was an 18-month deployment with over 50 sensors. And it saw, because it was a scale unit, over 40 extreme events, including a 500-year wave. And we saw less than 0.2 of a G. In all of those. This allowed us to validate numerical tools as well as the concrete design methods and achieve TR level 7. To give you a sense of what this looked like, this was one of the weather events we experienced offshore. It was during a winter storm, and you can see snow blowing across the screen. This is the turbine. You can see we were operating it to really put it through its paces. But this is the equivalent of around 9 meter significant wave height and operating, turbine with a peak thrust applied, so right at its rated wind speed. And you can see the large wave environment and how stable the concrete semi-submersible floater was during these types of events. I show you this video because we are on track right now for deploying the Volturnus Plus at the same location at a much larger size in October of this year, and that'll take that technology to the same technology maturity level. Just stepping back for a moment, the University of Maine developed this floating wind program about 16 years ago, very early in this industry, because we have about 156 gigawatts of wind within 50 nautical miles of the coast of Maine. So we were one of the early innovators in the United States in this market and started developing concrete solutions because of the lack of access to low-cost steel fabrication facilities and a rich concrete background. All the water depths are in the roughly 70 to 170 meters range. So and we have some of the highest electricity costs in the country in the Northeast. So it's a very interesting market. Of course, the West Coast is also, we're also looking at that as well, but you have some other challenges, including the very deep water depths. Right now, we're working on a research array. This is a 10 turbine, 150 megawatt project using the Volturnus technology. This has a research expected to have a research release awarded by the federal BOEM agency, which is responsible for federal leases, in the next month or so. And the governor of our state has just signed a 3 gigawatt floating wind procurement bill for the offtake. So these are some of the highlights here in this market. The Advanced Research Project Agency it funds breakthrough technologies in the energy space from the Department of Energy from the U.S. federal government. Has awarded us a phase 2. We call it the Volturnus Plus 1/4 scale demo, and that's on track for deployment in 2024. You can see the unit here. There's a person here for scale. This is using a Vestas 27 turbine. It's roughly 1/4 of a 15 megawatt system. This will be a unit you can get on. It'll have also made out of concrete and have the damper technology installed. The point of this test is to go through a commercial new technology qualification roadmap. We're working with the American Bureau of Shipping to do that and make that ready for commercial projects. We also have very active commercial engagement requirement as part of this. Like you heard from the Innovate UK, that the US government also is trying to get the technologies through the Valley of Death. And so we have a very robust tech to market program, as well as a commercial advisory board with a number of developers and fabricators to inform this project. The goal is to achieve TRL level of 7. And we'll be also deploying a novel nylon chain mooring system with representative hardware and deployment methods. And this will be deployed for up to 3 years at the same site that we deployed the previous one. Coming up soon in the state of Maine is there's also been an announcement of a large scale port. The goal is to build a roughly 100-acre floating wind port that was announced just earlier this year. So we know there's a number of similar efforts happening in the UK, and this is an area to potentially collaborate with the supply chain here in the UK and in the US in this project. Just on April 30th, the federal government announced a planned auction of 15 gigawatts worth of floating wind off the coast of Maine. The state of Maine is here, but this would also serve the other New England states and New Hampshire and Massachusetts. This auction is anticipated by October 2024. So it's a very exciting prospect for the industry, and another area that may be of interest to the people on this call. If you're interested more about U.S. opportunities, we host the largest floating wind conference in the country. It's called the American Floating Offshore Wind Technical Summit. That's in September 24th, 25th, the last week of September in Portland, Maine. I would like to invite anyone there who would like to get a sense, look at the latest advancements in floating, not just foundations, but also all the ancillary systems and some of the policy and financial and developer panels that we also host during that time. So in summary, there's a number of US opportunities we're happy to collaborate with, but we're also very excited about the UK opportunities and are very active in that space. We have Volturnus hull concrete technologies we developed, both semi and the barge. The semi is already commercial ready, deployed in 2013. The plus will be deploying that later this year. We have a commercial company called the Deep Sea Wind Company that supports developers to take these technologies to market. And I'd like to thank you for your attention and happy to answer any questions later in the Q&A spot. So I'll turn it back to Magnus. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Anthony. Yeah, I really appreciate that. I'm pleased to say I was one of your 30,000 visitors that you've had, and can say your facilities are super cool. So yeah, no, thanks very much, and thanks for presenting. I will just try and reshare my screen.
You're very welcome. Yeah.
Am I sharing? Right.
All good,
Yeah.
Magnus.
Yes, we see it.
Yeah. Cool. Great. Okay. So really appreciate both Roger and Anthony providing an overview of their roles within the program. I suppose you're all here to understand a little bit more about the actual grant funding process. So I'll talk you through that. We're maybe 5 or so minutes behind, but I'll try my best to stick to time. So we're offering grant funding within these 4 sort of general themes. The first being predictive control and conditional health monitoring. So this is for solutions which can predict and optimize operation and maintenance schedules of floating hulls, mooring systems, or cabling. And then also predictive control systems which minimize structural loads and platform oscillations as well. With regards to novel mooring system and anchor designs, we're looking for solutions such as limiting mooring line spread, or that limit mooring line spread, or novel mooring line material or line types, and then finally sort of lightweight anchor designs for rocky seabeds as well. In the low carbon concrete manufacturing and assembly for floating foundations, so this is sort of split into 3 bits, but the low carbon concrete manufacturing is of very much interest to us. The aiding the pre-assembly and launching of concrete floaters as well, and maximizing quayside space during manufacturing and assembly, and you sort of hear that referred in Anthony's presentation there as well. And then finally, innovative dynamic cable designs and protection systems. So this is cable routing, cable protection systems and solutions, but then also buoyancy modules for dynamic cabling as well. Each one of these sort of themes have been identified either through workshops with NREL or with UMaine, and also on review of sort of literature, in particular the UK Supply Chain Capability report, and engagement with Innovate UK as well. So we're hoping that they should be fairly aligned to sort of UK priorities, and sort of things like the industrial growth strategy and that kind of thing, which was recently reported as well. Okay, so in terms of actual who's eligible, the first thing to note is that the applications is open to UK entities only. So no RTOs, universities or charities can be funded as part of this program. So apologies if you're represent one of those organizations. In terms of collaborations, we wish to see collaborations with NREL and the University of Maine only, so no other US partners as within the program. Yep. And then projects should be aligned to the RDI streamlined route category 2. So if you're unsure what the RDI streamlined route is, then please review the scope and guidance documentation, which will link you to the link you to the government sort of guidance note on this. This is absolutely key for things like subsea control, and I will talk a little bit about this in a second as well. The projects can be up to 18 months long. Ideally, between 15 and 18 months if you are looking for a shorter project term. If you propose that and provide some reasoning which the assessment panel deem to be suitable, then that is also possible, but ideally 15 to 18 months long. And then the grant funding, so the total grant funding that you request should not exceed 500,000 and be no less than 300,000. So that's the total grant funding, not your total project costs. And depending on your project type and project organisation, the funding rate is between 25 and 70%. So I'll just come on to that just now. So I mentioned the RDI streamlined route. One of the things which is absolutely critical for you to do is to determine whether or not the project you are proposing for your organization, or sorry, for your entity, is whether or not it falls into one of two buckets. So there's industrial research and then also experimental development. And the definitions I have up on the screen here are pulled from the guidance. So industrial research is for planned research or critical investigation aimed at the acquisition of new knowledge and skills for developing new products, processes, or services, or for bringing about a significant improvement in existing products, processes, or services as defined in the RDI streamlined route. And then for experimental development, it's acquiring, combining, shaping, and using existing scientific, technological, business, and other relevant knowledge and skills with the aim of developing new or improved products, processes, or services as defined in the RDI streamlined route. Effectively, once you've done that, once you've given yourself a general bucket that you sit within, you should also then determine which size of organization you are. And from there, you can then determine what your intervention rate for the program will be. So for micro and small enterprises, for an industrial research program, you would receive up to 70% of your eligible costs as grant, and experimental development up to 45. If you're unsure whether or not you fit into a micro, small, or a medium or a large enterprise, if you look at the scope and guidance documentation, there is a link again to an external source which can help you. So in terms of the actual questions, we have split the application process, the application questions into 4 different sections. All of the sections need to be filled in. So if you do not fill them in, we will not accept your application. And only one application per organization will be accepted. So if you submit 2, neither will be marked. Section 1 is not scored, but is reviewed during the due diligence phase. So it is absolutely imperative that you fill that out. As I say, otherwise you will end up failing. Section 2, 3, and 4 are assessed by an independent panel. So by independent, I mean non-FLOWB people. So I, as the program manager, will not be responsible for assessing any of the projects that win funding. They will be selected by an external panel. So that is made up of 3 absolutely external, so no one from ORE Catapult, and then 2 people from ORE Catapult who will be subject matter experts within the theme which they are assessing. All questions which are scored have an equal weighting, so you don't need to worry about sort of one question being more important than another. You may also submit one appendix to support your answers. So something like a business plan, risk register, maybe a Gantt, that can be submitted. It must be as a PDF and be up to 5 pages long, and must be eligible on A4 size paper. And this would also be where you put things like letters of support if you receive one from the University of Maine or NREL. It's absolutely important that prior to submitting an application, you have read the scope and guidance document as well. So please make sure you do that before filling out any of the documentation. So I just wanted to walk through just one of the questions. I don't have time to do all of the questions which are scored to provide you with sort of what the assessment team will see or will be marking against, but hopefully this will give you an idea of the types of things that they're looking for. So I've selected completely at random one of the questions, and that's question 5. What approach will you take, and where will the focus of the innovation be? So the text you can see on the right is what's actually, it's detailed out in the application, where we're looking for you to provide us with talking points across these sort of themes. So things like, what's the ethical process your research will follow? How does this project fit with your current product, service line, or offering? And how are you responding to the need, challenge, or opportunity that you've identified? Oh, sorry, I've just gone the wrong way. So I'm just gonna on here, I'm just gonna pick, what's a 9 and 10, right? So hopefully you all submit applications and they're all absolutely fantastic and they all score between a 9 and 10. But what does that actually mean? So the approach addresses the need, challenge, or opportunity identified in question 4. So that's the question before, where you've been asked to identify the challenge. The main innovations and risks are identified. Evidence is provided to show how the innovation and project outputs will differentiate from those of competitors. The project is significantly innovative, either commercially or technically, and will make a substantive contribution to the field. Solid evidence is presented to substantiate the level of innovation and freedom to operate. Ethical research has been fully considered and applied to all relevant aspects of the project. So you can see from there, the assessors will be looking for quite an awful lot of detail in not an awful lot of time. So within each of the questions, you only have 400 words to answer. So you're going to have to be very concise into how you present that, and I suppose utilize your additional supplementary evidence as appropriate as well. So in terms of finances, there is a question specifically on value for money and that kind of thing. But as part of the application process, we also ask you to fill in the financial spreadsheet. Again, I don't want to go into too much detail here, but within that financial spreadsheet, you do have light gray cells. Those are the ones that you'd be filling in. There's three different tabs within that. The screen I'm sharing here is sort of the baseline financials, and so will be used in the program in sort of identifying your sort of grant offer letter should you be successful. These will be the figures that we input into that offer letter, so they can't be changed after you've been awarded the funding. And so, yeah, you should submit that. The light grey cells can be altered. Indirect costs are at 20%, and the maximum subcontract is 35% of your total project costs as well. There's some other information there, but it's also detailed out in the guidance side as well. And in the interest of time, I will move on. So in terms of timelines, so as of today, the application window will now close on the 27th of June. So it was due to close on the 31st of May. We're extending that to the 27th of June in order to ensure that you have enough time to form project proposals as well. We will also be closing the expression of interest form on the 24th of May. So this is this Friday. We've had a number of expression of interest so far. Even though the expression of interest will close, it doesn't mean that you can't submit. It just means it will be very, very difficult for us to make an introduction to either Anthony at the University of Maine or our partners at NREL as well. And we would like to think that we'll be making notification of outcome by the 1st of August. So a relatively quick turnaround of time. And then projects will run for up to 18 months from that date as well. If you could please note that the initial due diligence will begin on the 28th of June in order for us to turn everything around and give to the external panels. So if you've not submitted by close of play on the 27th, you will absolutely not be accepted within your application as well. So as I mentioned, the expressions of interest phase will close on Friday. If you haven't already submitted one, please do do so before that. This will allow us to sort of review and make sure we're pointing people in the right direction for discussions. NREL and UMaine will provide letters of support at their own discretion. It is not a requirement of the application that you receive a letter of support. So if you do not still have a letter, if you do not have a letter of support, still submit your application. It will still be reviewed as well. And then finally, if you're looking to download the application pack, then you can scan this QR code up in the right-hand side. It will take you to the website where you can scroll down and find the how to apply part, where there is the scope and guidance application form and the application finance form as well. Okay, I think I've generally caught us up for time. What I think I'll do is I'll just run through some of the frequently asked questions that I suppose I've had directed to me in the past sort of 4 or so weeks. So hopefully these answer your questions. I'm just going to check whether or not we have any other Q&A questions up as well. Or maybe I'll come to that. Okay, so as part of our proposed project, are we able to collaborate with other US organizations? Hopefully you've all got from today, no, collaborations between UK entities, NREL and University of Maine. Yeah, and you can fill out the expression of interest form. Will University of Maine or NREL receive funding from Innovate UK? No, NREL and University of Maine are funded through ARPA-E and the Atlantis programme. Are you accepting collaborative UK projects? No. No. If you intend on working with other UK organisations as part of your project, they'll need to be treated as subcontract. Yes, your project can be less than 15 months, as I mentioned, but ideally between 15 and 18 months. We will accept shorter projects where a clear reason has been given and they've obviously passed the relevant application process. Is certification of my product technology process or process classed as a subcontract? Yes, it is. How many words can I use in each of the scored sections? So 400 words for each question maximum. Can I spend my grant in the US? Yes, the majority of the work needs to be conducted in the UK, but where a clear justification has been given, grant may be spent elsewhere. Yes, you will all receive feedback on your application as well. Typically, I'll want to turn that around within 30 days of when we make our final decision, but I'll be in touch with everyone with the relevant sort of outcome and then come back with the feedback as well. So since we've now extended the deadline, what date should my project be able to start from? It'll be the 1st of August 2024. I realise that is an aggressive timeline, but there is sort of method in that madness. And I will also reissue the scope and guidance document now that the new date has been set to update the date sections as well. So there's been a couple of inconsistency that I've noted, so I will update those. Apologies for those, I'll update them. We will send them round to everyone who's expressed an interest. We will upload them to our website, and we'll also let everyone know when we send out the YouTube link as well for today's webinar. And then finally, this is one which I keep on getting asked about. So people are saying their project has already started, can I get funding? So no, if your project has already started, you could not get funding, FLOWB funding. It's primarily due to subsidy control and the RDI streamlined routes, and I suppose the due diligence which is required as part of that. But my clear steer would be here not to confuse projects and programs of research and that kind of thing. Projects are very specific things. If anyone's done the APM training, you'll know how to define a project appropriately as well. But we're absolutely not funding projects which are already started or are already receiving some kind of grant funding, or even has started and then failed as well. So I will pause there. We're at 3:55, so I think that's a relatively good time. I'm just going to pull up the Q&A. And let me just have a quick look. So I think Richard Stevens, you've had the scores for each section carrying separate weightings are being weighted equally. So hopefully you've got that it's weighted equally. Is any portion of the project budget allowed to be spent in the US? I think hopefully I've answered that just now. Based on today's webinar, can I change my EOI or should I just submit a new one? Please just submit a new one and with the same organization name, and I will filter it out on my end. Would the University of Maine be open for us to deploy something on their demonstrator? Anthony, I don't know if that's maybe a question for you.
Yeah, I'm glad someone asked this. We had another question already, Magnus, about this, and the answer is we're open to discussing that. Yeah. Yeah.
Great. That's really good to know. Thank you, Anthony. The other side of it, so how does the collaboration with the US institution work? So we'll put you in touch with either Anthony or NREL or someone within Anthony's team who can help scope out a project and provide an overview of what they will do within your collaboration. And then you'll propose that project. The Catapult will, I suppose, act as a mediator within that relationship as well, either through the grant funding sort of project monitoring, and other activities as well. So hopefully that answers that question, but if not, feel free to fire back. I did see, Roger, were you trying to answer that live?
No, apologies. I'm just trying to clean up so you can focus on the only ones. But,
no, that's okay. Thank you. So there's another question, Anthony, for you. So would you be open for them to model your mooring system in OrcaFlex or OpenFast, or could they give us access to their model?
Yeah, I think what we would recommend for specific questions like this, we should get together and discuss what you're intending to do that with the model. What's the best path? We certainly do have models here, but it may not be the best plan depending on your particular project. But yeah, I would be happy to discuss that question.
Great, thanks, Anthony. EOI, is it compulsory? No, it's not compulsory. It's just being used as a sort of a marketing opportunity. Is it eligible that the awarded UK company subcontract a package of work to a UK company subcontracts a package to a UK university? I'll take that one offline, and I don't want to say something that's wrong, so I'll take that one offline and come back to you on that one. And then I think there's one last question. So there are 4 themes, 3 areas of scope within each, 12 in total, but you suggest only 3 to 5 successful applicants. It seems very low chance of success for effort required in applying. I'm sorry you feel like that. I suppose what I would say is that there are 4 broad themes, and you know the sort of the areas of scope within each of them have been well thought out. Yeah, between 3 and 5, applications will be successful, or up to 5, I suppose, will be successful. So yeah, I can't really comment much further than that. Other than I'm sorry you feel like that. And if you'd like further information as to how we came to these themes, then please feel free to drop me a line either on my personal email or on the FLOWB email as well, which is available on the website. And then finally, just with the time, I think I'll wrap up there, but there's a question around the slide deck. Yes, so within the YouTube video, we'll upload this recording to a YouTube video, and within the description will be a link to download the slide pack. Yeah, I will hopefully, if there's any other questions that we've missed, I think there's 3 or 4. I'll try and come back to you on email, but please bear with me. It might be in the next couple of days. So without further ado, I think I will close down the rather quick, chaotic question and answers, and just very finally thank Roger and Anthony for your support in today's webinar, and finally Stuart, who's behind the scenes on the Catapult side, managing everyone. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us today. I hope you found it useful, and if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with either myself or through the FLOWB email as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Magnus. And good luck, everybody.
Thank you. Looking forward to collaborate with you all.
Thanks.